Hello, roller coaster gamers! Oh my gosh. Okay, welcome to another What I Think. For this one, we have Maverick at Cedar Point. And even though I have kind of in my top 10 video for this park, it's kind of like a mini review, but this is like an official, like detail by detail review of what I think of this ride. And if you saw in my top 12 roller coasters at Cedar Point, made number 4. A lot of people would put it probably at like number 2 or something. But it's still a great ride, so we're gonna get into this, starting with the stats. Maverick has a height of 105 feet, drop is 100 feet, top speed of 70 miles per hour, and angle of descent 95 degrees. Length, it has a track length of 4,450 feet, and it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. And it has 2 inversions, and those 2 inversions are connected to each other, which is called the horseshoe roll. And what's interesting is that it only has a height of 105 feet and just has a drop of 100 feet, but it has a top speed of 70 miles per hour. And that top speed is reached at the second launch. This coaster has 2 launches. The first one is a launch that acts kind of like a lift hill, because it's nice and slow, and it's meant just to get you to the top. So it feels kind of like a fast lift hill, but it's really a launch. And then you go over that 95-degree drop, and it's the whippiest drop at Cedar Point, because most of the other a lot of the coasters at Cedar Point have great drops, and this one is over fairly quickly. But because it's so small and it's so steep, it is the steepest drop at Cedar Point, and you get whipped over so bad, like in the back row, you just feel like you're getting flung out of your seat. It's awesome. So so yeah, it doesn't have the best height, but for how tall it is, it's all about being low to the ground. So even though the height isn't that good, it has a decent length, a decent duration, and it has a really steep drop and good top speed. So really, it's only the height that this coaster suffers in, but that doesn't mean it's a bad ride. Height doesn't determine if it's a good ride or not, really. So, elements we have the more technical stuff, which are like water effects, some rock work, and there's 2 launches. The first one acts like a lift hill. The second one in the tunnel is like a true launch. That's where you reach that 70 mile per hour top speed. And also, right after that first launch, there is a trim to slow you down, because you go over that super low to the ground turn. I don't mind them; they're not that bad. They don't seem to affect me that much, but I've heard some people complain a little bit about those trims there. So, and we have a beyond vertical drop, which is awesome. Several low to the ground bank turns. It has a horseshoe roll, which are those 2 inversions. They're kind of like 0G rolls, but they're shaped in a way, and they're both back to back. It's shaped in a way where it looks like the shape of a horseshoe. And then we have a bunch of rapid transitions, some higher bank turns. They're more of the turns like closer to the end, like in the second half after that launch and that over the water, where they kind of like go up and then swoop, and then they'll go back the other way. You might know what I'm talking about. There's one that's right under the lift hill, and then there's one right after it. And then we have some airtime hills. The 2 main airtime moments are the one after those super low. You have the first drop, you have some low to the ground turns, and then you have an airtime hill, and then you have one right before you hit the final brake run. And I think the first airtime hill, even though you're going through it slower, I feel like it gives better airtime than the second hill. The hill closer to the end of the ride, even though it's smaller, seems to be a bit more drawn out. That they both give great airtime, but that first airtime hill on the ride gave so much ejector airtime. It was awesome, especially in the back row. And the elements are all good, and the only problem I have with this coaster is that is the restraints. and I know they are better than the once existing hard plastic restraints. They were kind of, you'll see in the pictures in a minute, they're orange and they weren't exactly the most comfortable. People didn't really like this ride as much then because because they got a neck ache and stuff. If you're taller, you probably won't mind this as much. You might be hitting your shoulders, but if you're, or I don't know. So I'm like average height, so um, even though they changed it to the softer restraints that you see on like Intimidator 305 at Kings Dominion, they did it to some coasters at Hershey Park like Storm Runner and Fahrenheit, and it's probably better than they were. But because of the rapid transitions and everything, you're constantly shifting from left to right, and even on that drop, like every time you're switching directions and stuff, if you're not braced for those turns, then it could cause you to hit your shoulders or like get knocked into the restraint a bit. My stepdad had a much bigger issue with it. He thought it was too aggressive. I didn't mind it as much, but it did kind of take a little bit away from the ride because sometimes I was just focused on getting my neck and stuff, and my head getting knocked into the restraints because it was constantly whipping around. It feels like you're actually on like a bull or something getting thrown off. That's exactly what this feels like. They describe it as feeling like you're on a Bronco. That's kind of what it feels like. But if it had like lap bars or something, it'd probably be awesome. But the over the shoulder restraints make it less and less comfortable when you're. I think the more you ride it, the more you'll like it because the more you ride it, the more used you are to the ride, so you'll be able to brace yourself a lot easier for the turns and rapid transitions, so you're not going to be hitting your neck as much into those over the shoulder restraints. So it's super intense and super awesome, but it's just I keep hitting my head into the restraints, and it just makes it a little bit less than comfortable. So now we're at the pictures, and we have that. That's where that launch that acts like a lift hill is. You have that beyond vertical drop. That drop is sweet, especially in the back row, and you get whipped over. And then you have several low to ground turns, like right here. And then there's that first airtime hill, which is awesome. And then you have like some low to the ground turns right there. You have the horseshoe roll, which is right there. You have a turn right there, and that's what the restraints look like. These are the older restraints. It's hard to see, but you can kind of. This is probably the best you can see of them. They're kind of orange and they're hard plastic. These are after they change them, they're more soft and stuff. Even with these, I keep hitting my neck on the restraints. But yeah, here's where you have probably one of my favorite parts of the ride is the launch out through the tunnel, and you come up. Here's where those trims are. They don't really bother me that much. And then you go down over the water, and you don't really notice it when you're on the ride because you pass because you're on the car, so you don't have time to see it before you go through the turn. But if you're watching the ride like off ride, you see the jets shoot up as the water jets like shoot up, and it's like a cool effect when the train passes by. And then here you have some rock working. It kind of looks like a canyon almost, and you have some water. It's a really pretty ride in it and everything. And here's like some turns here, right here. When they were building this coaster, right after that water effect, you go to like in this picture, you go over the water, and then when you go through here, you were originally going to go through this like heartline roll right here, but they took it out because it caused issues with the ride, and so they had to take it out. And so now it only has two inversions, which is the horseshoe roll, which is right here. So as awesome as the ride is, it's made my number 4. I wish I could put it higher. It's just the only reason I didn't put it higher is because I feel like it was too aggressive with the hitting my neck into the restraints. So it is still one of the best coasters at Cedar Point. I don't think my stepdad would say that, but to me, it's still great and it's still fun. And I'm sure people would disagree with me and say that, oh, it's like one of the best coasters at Cedar Point. And it is one of the best. But a lot of people would put it as their second or third favorite, and I'm not quite sure if I would put it there. I still would prefer rides like Millennium Force, Steel Vengeance, and Topple Dragster. I'd put at least those three above it. But maybe if I go back to Cedar Point, I ought to try it again. Maybe the more I ride it, the better I'll feel about it. I'll know what to expect going in, and it'll be better. Maybe so. I'll be used to those transitions and stuff, so you can kind of brace yourself for them. But it's still intense and super fun, and that's gonna do this review or what I think of Maverick. This is the end of the video. Let me know what you think of this coaster. If you agree or disagree with me, I don't really care. But I like to see other people's thoughts though. So see you guys next time. Bye.